Jenny Clark at Awakened Souls on Spotify.
Hello, listeners. We're back again with the second season and another podcast on Awakened Souls. Today, I bring you the author Nick Pease. Nick was born in Windsor, England, and was able to hear and later see spirit beings as a child. Nick went on to earn a degree in philosophy and also joined a circle as a medium at the Spiritualist Association of Great Britain, SAGB, in London. He maintained an active interest in the conflicting paradigm of religion and scientific knowledge. Nick brings all this experience and knowledge to bear in Revelation, a thrilling novel about life after death. Although Nick has pursued a busy career as an advertising copywriter and is used to seeing his words on print, Revelation is his first novel. Welcome on the show, Nick. Wonderful to have you here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Jenny, it's a delight, a real pleasure to be with you and to speak to your listeners, and welcome to all of them. It's midnight at the moment in the United Kingdom, where I'm speaking from, and it's really nice to be with you. I've written a book called Revelation. That's why I'm on the show today. It's a thriller about life after death. As my work, I'm actually an advertising copywriter by trade, and that's what I do here in the UK. It's the first novel I've actually written, so I'm very excited about it. It's only been out a few weeks now, but I gather it's doing quite well, and it's a very different kind of novel, because not many people write about this kind of subject, about life after death, within a thriller format. So I'm quite excited about breaking new ground in a way.
Wonderful. A question for you, silly question. If you could spend a day with another popular author, whom would you choose?
Well,
Yeah.
that is a difficult one. Sadly, probably my favourite author has passed away in the last few years, and that would be John le Carré, who wrote some wonderful spy novels. Who I think is absolutely a master. One of my favourite books of all time is Tink.
Yeah.
But also another author, Susan Jeffers. She wrote the wonderful book Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, and I think that is such an inspiring book. Sadly, she's passed. I shouldn't say sadly, because with my attitude towards life, I think life after death, the afterlife, is a wonderful place to be. But sadly, in our sense of seeing them go. But I think that book, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway, is absolutely fabulous.
Awesome. Have you ever traveled as research for your book at any time?
Yeah, I have, and I've also nowadays it's so easy and convenient to do so much research on the internet. So, for example, I've not myself been to Iraq. My novel Revelation is set in both Iraq and Washington, D.C. So I've not been to Iraq myself, but I didn't have to, because obviously so much of that information is available. As much information as I needed anyway to write the book, I was able to get all that off the internet and from films and things I've seen. So everything in the book is very authentic, and it was a pleasure to write.
Actually, that's the thing about being a writer. I think it's wonderful that we can travel with our imagination, and there's so much at our fingertips now that we can write just about anything. We have so much information available.
I think that's absolutely right, Jenny, and so what you say there is very true. We travel in our imagination,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
as a novelist,
And
that's
not
what
just
you're
on
allowed
Earth,
to do.
we travel everywhere in different dimensions.
Yeah, exactly. And I
Yeah,
know you do too, and
yeah,
you've been very
absolutely.
successful at it. But it really is, and the wonderful thing is, when you're literally sitting and you have a blank sheet of paper, and you could take the reader wherever. And I just hope they enjoy it.
um, what's your favorite writing snack or drink? All writers have their yeah,
This is
their
going to
moho.
this is going to sound terribly British, isn't it? But I do like a nice cup of tea.
I was just thinking that in India it would be cutting chai, or for
Yes.
me it's black coffee.
Oh, right. Yes. Yes. Well, yes. And the funny thing is, I do my best work first thing in the morning. I'm very much a morning person, so I will often be working at 6:30 in the morning, and that's when I have a nice cup of tea, and I feel inspired. It's quiet. It's your brain is fresh, and it's a really good time to get good ideas down.
Exactly, that's amazing. What is your kryptonite as a writer?
What does
Do you have a kryptonite? A kryptonite
uh,
as a
uh,
writer.
uh, not really, but it would be useful, wouldn't it?
I hope not.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit? Could you tell my listeners a little bit about your spirit being encounters as a child?
Yes, absolutely. Because obviously, this is what set me on my path to revelation, which is all about life after death. But when I was a very young child, when I was no more than about 5 or 6 years old, that's when I had my first major encounter with spirit, and it was the spirit of a young girl. She was probably in her teens, who had passed away in the house in which I lived with my parents, and I could hear her. The footsteps used to come down the stairs from the floor above, right. And it frightened the life out of me because it was so out of ordinary experience. It
I'm
was
sure it did. Wow.
unmistakably human, and it was quite some first encounter. But I could hear spirits from a very young age, and then I started to see teens, and of course that set me on my whole road of inquiring, which made me realize there's more to the everyday life than just what orthodox teachings were perhaps trying to tell me. And I realized there were great dimensions to life. And so I wanted to explore that more. And that took me on a journey which I went to university and studied philosophy because I wanted to put everything under a microscope, exacting forensic analysis of what existence is all about, and I wanted to do that
Indeed.
to really understand things. And then, of course, I went
Mm.
to Great Britain in London in my 20s and started to develop in Circle as a spiritual medium. So it's been a whole lifetime of journeying and adding to my spiritual knowledge, which led me to then want to write a novel which was based around life after death, which is what I've done with Revelation. And within the book, there's a lot of spiritual philosophy, although it's framed within a very exciting story, a roller coaster ride of events. People can read it as just a gripping novel, but it does deal with the subject of life after death and leads you ultimately to a beautifully life-affirming conclusion. So I think it's a very uplifting book overall, but there is a lot of very, how to put it, sort of, there's a lot of spiritual philosophy in there, a lot of things in there that I hope people will relate to.
You are listening to Jenny Clark at Awakened Souls on Spotify or wherever you're listening to our podcast. Every week we will bring you stories, conspiracy theories, and pearls of spiritual wisdom. We will talk about everything from ghosts and hauntings shamanic teachings, and crystal healings, angels and demons to tarot in the occult. If there is anything you want to share or want us to cover, DM us on Awakened Souls at Anchor FM or email us at teamawakendsouls@gmail.com. Namaste.
Do you have a theory on life after death? And do you believe in reincarnation?
Yeah, I do. And I've
I thought
seen,
so.
yeah, well, it, once you get into these things and having studied them over the years, the whole subject matter of life after death is so vast, as you know yourself, Jenny, that it's not just one thing. It's not just us here and them over there, as it were. And I say over there because, as many people who've had near-death experiences will tell you, passing over is like just walking into another room. They're round and about us right now, but there are many realms in the spirit world. It's not just the one realm, and life is a continuous development. Um, and reincarnation is very much a part of that as well, but it's not for everybody. Some people do, some people don't, some people reincarnate many times, but these are vast subjects, each in their own right. The whole aspect of reincarnation and the whole concept of what is in the spiritual realms as well. And it's very hard to sometimes put it across very quickly to people, and I wouldn't expect I never preach it to anybody. I wouldn't want to. It's up to individuals to find their own truth. I never say, look, you have to believe me because this is my experience. That is my experience, but that's for me. Unless you've experienced, it's good to be skeptical. I mean, that's why I studied philosophy, which is one of the most skeptical trains of thought, because I wanted to put everything to the test. And I think one of the things that attracted me to spirituality, the guides, instead of saying believe this or believe that, they actually say to us, look, if anything offends your reason, reject it. And I thought, how refreshing, how fantastic that instead of saying you will believe this because this is our creed, this is our dogma, they're saying, no, be a free thinker, find your own truth. We're going to tell you how we know it to be, but you investigate it for yourself. And that's exactly what I say to people as well. I'll say, look, I'm very happy to share my experiences with you. I'll tell you what happened to me as a child. I'll tell you why I wrote Revelation. I'll tell you why I felt I was being channeled when I wrote it. I'll tell you examples of reincarnation I've come across, and I'll give you all kinds of things. But I'm not going to ask you to believe them just because I'm telling you that. I'll say, no, don't believe a single word I say. You find your own truth. And I often say that to people. I say, I'm not here to preach to you. I'll very happily share what I've learnt in my lifetime of study and sort of spiritual furtherance. But I think it's for everybody to find their own path. And I think that's what's so, for me, very enlightening about the spiritual path. It doesn't try to lecture to people. It just says, you find your own way. You're a wonderful, beautiful spiritual individual in your own right. There's no right or wrong to your life. What you decide to do is up to you. Spirit won't come and judge you. That's the other thing that I always thought was so wonderful about spirituality. They don't judge. They don't come and wag their finger at you or anything.
Yeah, so
It,
beautiful.
free way of living. But
Exactly.
you touched on reincarnation there, Jenny. That, as you know yourself, that is vast. That's such a vast subject. But if
Agree.
people are interested, there are fascinating books about it where you can read about various true life examples of reincarnation, which will make your hair stand on end. They are extraordinary, and cannot be explained by science or anything else. And I find that fascinating.
Yeah. Could you share with my listeners something about your book and what the plot is like?
Yes, certainly. The uh, uh, it's a thriller, and it's basically about life after death, and it's something that always has interested me. Is what if somebody could develop a device or a machine that could actually prove 100% that life after death is a scientific fact? Because if you think about it, at the moment, all we've got is we can go and see a medium, those who don't necessarily have their psychic gifts developed to the extent that they can have that experience for themselves. If you do have those experiences for yourself, then great. But if you don't, then you have to go and see a medium, and that's about all you've got. So I came up with this idea that, look, what if somebody could 100% prove life after death to be a scientific fact? So the book Revelation is essentially set in Washington, D.C., but we start our two main characters, Jack and Marty. They're two brilliant scientist friends who are working on a top secret device for the CIA, which is codenamed Revelation. But the device has a different objective. It's actually to try and break down energetically the structure of everything so that you could identify improvised explosive devices and landmines and things like that. So it has a very good objective. But the program fails. But later, working alone, Jack and Marty accidentally make the device work in a completely unexpected way, proving that life after death is an absolute fact. Now, what
Wow.
happens thereafter is where the real thriller side of the book kicks in, because Jack takes the I don't want to give too many secrets away because it'll ruin it for people, but
Spoiler, yeah.
uh, uh, when Jack and Marty were working for uh,
Yeah.
the CIA in Iraq, the head of the
Yeah.
station there was a chap called Frank Caspari, who has since risen to become White House Chief of Staff. So, of course, Jack thinks, well, I'm not going to go to the media with this because it might just become a circus. So I'll go and see Frank and tell him what we've done. And so he goes and sees Frank Caspari and tells him about Revelation and the fact that they've made it work to prove scientifically that life after death is 100% fact. But what happens then is that those in see Revelation as a direct threat to their political and religious agendas, and they set out to destroy it and its inventors. So we then enter incredible political, religious, scientific intrigue, where what then follows is a fast paced roller coaster of events as Jack and his um, girlfriend, Linda, try to outpace the people who are after them, who want to shut down Revelation and them before it becomes public knowledge. And that's what the story then really picks up pace and takes you on this incredible ride of events. There's action, all kinds of things happen, and then it unfolds towards its exciting and beautifully life affirming conclusion, because what Jack has to do is to get Revelation into the public domain. So the story is about how can he do that while staying alive, whilst he's got these people on his tail. So there's all kinds of subplots, subterfuge, you name it. I think it's very exciting. There's a lot of humor in there. There's obviously the love story between Jack and Linda. Uh, Throughout it, the whole book poses a lot of questions, spiritual, philosophical questions about what would happen if life after death could be proved as a scientific fact. Would it actually be accepted by everybody as a wonderful thing? Maybe not. Maybe there are those who would see it as a threat, who would see it as something that would get in the way of their own agendas. And very deep, interesting questions, I think, whilst also dealing with it in a thriller, uh, uh, format. So Hopefully people will find a lot in it that they will enjoy, and I really hope they do.
I'm sure they will. It sounds very exciting.
Thank you.
What comes first for you, the plot or the characters, when you write?
Essentially, I think when you're writing, you have to have the central idea. So, in other words, the
Mm,
main plot.
the
What is
story,
going to happen?
storyline.
Yeah, the story. What is the absolute kernel of your story? What is going to happen? What's it
Mm,
about? And can you condense that into, as I've just tried to do, into a very short summary of what it's about? Then you add the characters, and in Revelation, we've got Jack and Marty are the two scientists, but you've got Linda, who is Jack's girlfriend. You've got Frank Caspari, the White House chief of staff. You've got his little cabal of in positions of great power, whether it's in the military or wherever it might be. You've then got some funny characters as well along the way who we meet and fulfill their roles. So that's
mm,
the sort of clothing that you put on your story. So you have the main plot, which is about two scientists make this breakthrough, a machine that can actually prove scientifically 100% that life after. That's your central plot, but then you add to it all the subplots of what else is going to go on that is going to intrigue people. What are the characters? How can they contribute to that? You've obviously got the main protagonist in Jack, but you've also got people, you've got the baddies, so to speak, who are trying to stop him. You've got other characters coming in who can help him bring revelation to the public domain. So all those things come later. So
yes.
the simple answer to your question is the
You,
central plot. Then all the other subplots and characters
you flesh it
come
all in.
later. Yeah.
Yes, yes. If your book were made into a movie,
Yeah.
which actors would play your character, the Jack and Linda's role and Marty?
very,
I'm
very.
curious.
I've thought about it a lot. I don't have set ideas on
You have thought
who would
about it.
play the characters. Well, I have, but I think it would be sort of unfair because I have had a little bit of interest on that front. So I'm keeping my powder dry there. But it was what interests me about a character like the main protagonist, Jack, for example.
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
think in anything where you're creating something, I'm a great believer that ambiguity is a wonderful aspect to imbue in your character. So where he is a kind of contradiction of he's a brilliant scientist, but he's also a very unconfident man. Um, and so you have this struggle within himself throughout the book of how can this man who has they're not character flaws, but just sort of like all of us, we're all, none of us are perfect, and we investigate during the book his character traits and realize that he does lack confidence, and whilst he's brilliant at what he does, it's a question of how he can overcome his inner struggle in getting revelation into the public domain. So that I
Wow.
find fascinating. And of course, in relation to your question, that makes you start to think of the sort of actors and actresses for Linda as well, who's quite a strong woman in it, who can imbue that kind of uh, uh, traits. So they're not your standard heroes. They're not your action packed, gung ho type heroes. Not at all. They're people who are vulnerable. There are people who are just like you and me and everybody else. They're not. They're people who are put in an incredible situation, and so you can empathize with them and identify with them and think, gosh, how are they going to get out of this? So in terms of, if you were to cast it, you would be looking for people who could do that. There is one character in the book who I will openly openly say I did sort of have somebody in mind when I wrote her,
I did
and
want to ask you.
that was the president of the United States, who features in the
Ah,
book, is a black woman, and a really wonderful, very aware, um, a really good character. And at the time I started writing it, not as as playing the part, but I obviously had Michelle Obama slightly in mind in terms of as the role model for who base the president on. But so it would need an actress who could carry that off and carry that sort of strength of character, and moral uprightness, if you like.
yes.
Wanted to add in the character. So each character is different, and there's a character in the book called Jason who is a wonderful, humorous character, and you do have sort of ideas of who you might want to play a character like that. But I think I wouldn't want to set that out right.
You're playing your
Let's just hope.
cards
I'll just
close.
hope it happens.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. What do you need in your writing space to help you stay focused?
Um,
We all are, yeah,
yeah, I
little
obviously
quirks.
I work best in silence. I know some people like to write with music in the background or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't.
I don't want to ask.
I don't. I love music so much that all I'll do is start listening to the music. so so that's not going to
How
work
about
for me.
classics? How about
So
classics? Like,
yeah,
say,
yeah.
Beethoven
And I
or
listen meditation music, and I love hard rock and all sorts of things. I have a very wide taste. Um, but no, so I don't have music. I like silence, or as silent as it can be, and then I can be alone with my thoughts and really let things happen. Um, and in a sense, it's a bit like when I go into meditation. I need that silence. Although actually, when I do meditate, I do tend to play a bit of quiet meditative music in the background. But generally, for writing, no, I like total silence.
Have you taken any risks in your writing that have paid off?
I would say Revelation is a risk because it's a completely different. I mean, a lot of people who are reacting to it have recognized that it's a very different genre. Some people are calling it a spiritual thriller because it's kind of breaking new ground. There aren't, to my knowledge, many books out there that could claim to be spiritual thrillers, and particularly that have been written from the point of not only studied philosophy, developed as a spiritual medium who takes an interest in religions, in science, and brings it all together in a thriller, and wraps it up. So, yes, it was a risk to write something like that and put it out there in the public domain and say, look, this is me, because it is, in a sense, it's of my life studies, but in a thriller format. It's a novel. It's not a factual book. It's very much fiction, but the all the science in it, all the spirituality within it, all the philosophy within it, etc., is absolutely factual, and that's what makes it, I think, quite interesting. So it's a kind of risk because it's breaking new ground. It's going out, doing something very different, and putting a point of view that some people will love, some people won't love, and you just accept that and say, okay, I hope you enjoy it as a thriller. It's up to you what you make of it. You don't have to go into any great depth in it. If you do and you find more to it than just the thriller aspect to it, then that's wonderful, and I hope many people will.
Yeah, beautiful. I just wanted to lastly just would like you to share with our listeners where they can find your book and how they can reach out to you if they want
Yeah,
to
yeah.
get in
Uh,
touch. Yes.
well, my book is available. Is the main one. I think it's on, I believe, um, it's on Kindle. I think you can go on some of the, I don't know what bookstores you have in the US, for example, but we have, you can buy it online at Waterstones, or go direct to the Cranthorpe Milner, cranthorpemilner.com, and you can buy. Obviously, Amazon is probably I think they account for something like 70% of worldwide sales now, don't they? It's extraordinary. But those who prefer to buy direct from the publisher can do it, or go online. And myself, I'm on Instagram, so you could probably find me there. And yeah, be nice to hear
Along
from
with
some
this
people.
podcast, yes, along with this podcast, I'll ensure that we have your links shared so listeners can get to read your book or find you wherever you are.
Well, that would be
And
lovely.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been lovely talking to you and with a wonderful interview with you. Thank you for sharing your time and your views.
Well, it's been
Um,
really a great pleasure, Jenny, and lovely talking to
same
you.
here,
And
same here. Namaste.
yeah,
You were listening to Jenny Clark at Awakened Souls on Spotify.